Most men are prisoners of their own attachment. They chase validation, cling to comfort, beg for attention, and fear loss like it's death. They build their identity around things that can be taken from them: people, outcomes, status, routines, emotions, fantasies. Weak men depend on the world. Strong men depend on themselves. Untouchable men depend on nothing. But a rare kind of man chooses a different path, the path of emotional detachment, strategic indifference, and internal sovereignty. This video is not about becoming cold for aesthetics. It's about using emotional distance as a weapon to control yourself, to control your reactions, and ultimately, to control your world. If you're ready to kill attachment, destroy dependency, and step into a version of yourself no one can manipulate, welcome to Detach to Dominate, freedom through indifference. Rule 1. Indifference is the sharpest blade a man can carry. Indifference is not about feeling nothing. It's about not letting anything own you. It is the purest expression of psychological power, because every form of control others have over you depends on your emotional investment. Think about it. Someone can only hurt you if you care. Someone can only manipulate you if you react. Someone can only pull you around if you attach. Someone can only disrespect you if you fear losing them. The world doesn't need to overpower you. It just needs you to cling to something. The moment you want an outcome too badly, you can be used. The moment you need someone's approval, you can be controlled. The moment you fear loss, you are already defeated. Indifference destroys all of it. Not the fake kind, not pretending not to care. Fake indifference is emotional cosplay. Real indifference is internal disconnection from outcomes, from expectations, from validation. It feels like this. You don't chase anyone. You don't argue with chaos. You don't negotiate with disrespect. You don't explain yourself to the unworthy. You don't attach your peace to anything external. When a man masters indifference, something terrifying happens. He moves through the world like he is untouchable. People feel it. They sense it. They cannot read you. They cannot pull you. They cannot break you. Your silence becomes power. Your distance becomes leverage. Your neutrality becomes a psychological threat. Because most humans rely on emotional hooks to survive: validation, drama, attention, conflict, reassurance. When you give them nothing, they unravel. A truly indifferent man is a psychological mirror. He forces people to confront their own weakness, because nothing they do moves him. He is impenetrable. He is unpredictable. He is uncontrollable. This is why indifference is feared. It signals that your mind is not available to be colonized by other people's desires, insecurities, or expectations. And that, in modern times, is equivalent to carrying a blade no one can take from you. Rule 2. The man who feels less sees more. Most people drown in their own emotions. They think they're feeling deeply, but really, they're being dragged by impulses they can't control. Anger blinds them. Desire dictates them. Fear paralyzes them. Stress scatters them. Ego misleads them. Validation enslaves them. They walk through life reacting, not deciding. Feeling, not thinking. Taking things personally, not strategically. And that is why they lose. Emotion creates fog. Fog hides the truth, and the man who cannot see clearly cannot win. A detached man does not feel less because he is numb. He feels less because he has mastered the hierarchy of emotion. What deserves his attention, he observes. What doesn't, he discards. Instantly, coldly, without negotiation. He is not controlled by his emotional storms, he stands above them. A man like this sees the world with frightening clarity. He sees intentions behind words, he sees patterns behind actions. He sees the power dynamics others pretend aren't there. He sees the emotional needs guiding people's behavior. Why? Because his own emotions are not screaming over the signal. Because nothing inside him is loud enough to distort the truth. The world becomes transparent when your mind becomes quiet. You start noticing what most men completely miss: the micro-hesitation that reveals insecurity, the exaggerated laugh that hides jealousy, the subtle shift in tone that signals hidden interest, the twitch of discomfort that exposes a lie, the tension behind fake confidence, the way people depend on your reaction to anchor themselves. This level of perception is a weapon. The less you feel, the more you see. And the more you see, the more control you have. Emotional men operate based on how the world makes them feel. Detached men operate based on what the world truly is. Emotion distorts reality. Detachment reveals it. Here is the paradox. People think emotional men are more alive, but they are actually more blind. They think detached men are cold, but they are actually more awake. You cannot read the game while drowning in it. You cannot understand people while reacting to them. You cannot predict behavior while personalizing it. A man who feels too much is predictable. A man who feels less becomes unreadable. And the unreadable man becomes the one who holds the advantage in conversation, in conflict, in negotiation, in relationships, in leadership, in war. Because perception is power, and detachment sharpens perception like nothing else. When you destroy emotional noise, your vision becomes razor sharp, and the man with the sharpest vision wins without ever needing to raise his voice. Rule 3. Desensitization, turning your emotions into neutral signals. Emotion stops controlling you the moment you stop treating it like a threat. The weak collapse because every feeling becomes a crisis, every discomfort becomes a catastrophe, every internal movement becomes a command. A ruthless mind does the opposite. It treats emotions as data, not directives, signals, not orders, information, not identity. That transformation, destroying the emotional charge behind your inner reactions, is the essence of desensitization. And it begins here. Your emotions dominate you because you avoid them. Avoidance strengthens the trigger. Silence amplifies the internal noise. When you avoid, the anxiety grows, the urge becomes louder, the insecurity tightens its grip, the fear becomes a tyrant. You don't overcome emotional impulses by resisting them. You overcome them by facing them repeatedly, until they lose meaning. This is why exposure works. The mind cannot stay alarmed by something it encounters constantly. Repetition kills sensitivity. Frequency kills fear. Familiarity kills the emotional spike. That is desensitization. You must train a stance where you watch your emotions like a scientist observing an animal, not identifying, not reacting, not participating, only observing. The moment you watch your emotion instead of merging with it, something powerful happens. You create distance. Distance creates control. Control creates dominance. You are not angry. You are witnessing anger arise. You are not anxious. You are witnessing anxiety unfold. You are not hurt. You are witnessing pain attempt to speak. This shift turns a wave into a shape, a storm into a pattern, a threat into a signal, and signals are harmless. To desensitize the emotional system, you must quiet the physiological reaction. Because every emotion begins in the body before reaching the mind. Here is the protocol. Shoulders drop, jaw unclenches, breath slows, eye muscles soften, tongue relaxes from the roof of the mouth. Why does this work? Because a calm body sends a message to the brain. There is nothing to react to. Your nervous system turns off the alarm. The emotional spike collapses. The impulse dies before it fully forms. This is not relaxation. This is dominion over your physiological interface. A ruthless mind must be forged in controlled difficulty. When you place yourself deliberately in situations that generate discomfort, cold, silence, stillness, confrontation, rejection, you are sending a message to your brain. We do not fear intensity. And when the brain stops fearing intensity, it stops overreacting to it. Voluntary discomfort rewires the emotional system. Fear becomes familiarity. Stress becomes routine. Pain becomes tolerable. Pressure becomes normal. Tension becomes background noise. This kills emotional hypersensitivity. This builds emotional discipline. This creates cold presence. Every man needs a phrase that neutralizes emotional overreaction on command. Use this. This is information, not identity. It does 3 things instantly. It separates you from the emotion. It stops the ego from exaggerating the meaning. It kills the urgency to react. You turn the storm into a statistic, the chaos into a reading, the pain into data. With this one line, you extract the venom from the emotion. A trigger only exists because you respond to it. If you remove your response, the trigger dies from starvation. You must repeatedly face the exact situations that once destabilized you. The tone that irritates you, the silence that activates you, the comment that cuts you, the disrespect that burns you, the uncertainty that drains you, the pressure that shakes you. Each time you face it without reacting, the trigger loses power. The cycle is simple. Trigger appears, you remain still, emotional charge drops, brain updates the pattern, trigger weakens. Repeat this enough times and eventually, the trigger no longer triggers, the emotion no longer spikes, you no longer react. That is desensitization mastery. That is how you become untouchable. A man becomes unprovocable when nothing inside him is fragile. To reach this state, you must erase the three sources of reactivity: ego wounds, validation hunger, unresolved insecurity. You are provoked because something inside you responds to the hit. Fix the internal bruise, and the external strike becomes irrelevant. To be unprovocable means you don't rise to disrespect, you don't collapse under pressure, you don't chase validation, you don't react to manipulation, you don't respond to emotional bait, you don't break under humiliation. People feel the difference. They sense the cold steadiness. They see the absence of emotional leakage. They realize you cannot be pushed, pulled, or shaped. An unprovocable man is dangerous because he is impossible to control. Rule 4. Rewire your emotional responses through cognitive override. Your emotions are not random. They're conditioned reactions, automatic patterns created by repetition, environment, and past identity. If you do nothing, your mind will keep recycling the same emotional cycles that kept you weak in previous years. A ruthless mind doesn't wait for emotions to change. It reprograms them. Rule 4 is about cognitive override, the process of replacing your default emotional reactions with deliberate, strategic ones. This is how men evolve from emotionally impulsive to emotionally engineered. Let's begin. Every emotional reaction follows a predictable chain: sensation, interpretation, meaning, reaction. The weak let this chain run automatically. The ruthless interrupt it. The moment you feel a spike, irritation, fear, anger, insecurity, you must cut the chain before it reaches the reaction stage. You interrupt by asking, "Is this useful?" That one question freezes the emotional sequence. The brain cannot run the automatic program while evaluating utility. And once the program is frozen, you can override it. Emotion exists because of meaning. Change the meaning, and the emotion collapses. Most emotional suffering comes from misinterpretation. You think discomfort is danger. You think criticism is humiliation. You think uncertainty is failure. You think pressure is threat. You think silence is rejection. All false. A ruthless mind rewrites the meaning. Discomfort equals adaptation. Criticism, indifference. Pressure equals sharpening. Uncertainty equals expansion. Silence equals control. When you rewrite meaning, you rewrite emotion. This is cognitive override at its core. Your emotions demand immediate reaction. Speak now. Defend yourself. Retaliate. Prove something. Escape. Collapse. The weak obey. The engineered mind does the opposite. Act in contradiction. Your impulse demands reaction. You stay still. Your emotion demands expression. You stay silent. Your insecurity demands validation. You withdraw. Your anger demands attack. You observe. Your fear demands escape. You remain. By contradicting the impulse, you destroy its internal authority. Every time you refuse to obey the emotional command, the emotion loses a percentage of its power. Do this enough times, and the impulse gives up entirely. A ruthless mind does not feel then decide. It runs on protocol. Protocol is predetermined behavior that replaces emotional improvisation. Here's a simplified example. Trigger, disrespect. Old emotional reaction, defend, argue, justify. New protocol, stillness, eye contact, minimal response. Another, trigger, anxiety. Old reaction, mental spiraling. New protocol, grounded breathing, slow exhale, neutral observation. And another, trigger, rejection. Old reaction, insecurity, overthinking. New protocol, posture straight, zero explanation, forward movement. Protocols eliminate emotional chaos by eliminating emotional choice. This is how a man becomes predictable to himself and unpredictable to others. Rewiring is not intellectual, it is behavioral repetition. Every time you override an emotion with a new protocol, you carve a new neural pathway. Repeat the override enough times, and your brain adopts the new response as default. Stillness becomes natural. Detachment becomes instinctive. Coldness becomes baseline. Self-control becomes reflex. Calmness becomes identity. You are no longer controlling your emotions. You have replaced the emotional system altogether. Your reactions become engineered. Your state becomes deliberate. Your mind becomes weaponized. At the final stage of rewiring, your mind enters what I call the unshakable response state. Here is what defines it. Nothing surprises you. Nothing provokes you. Nothing destabilizes you. Nothing controls you. Nothing reaches deep enough to break you. Your emotional system becomes minimal, neutral, precise, strategic. No spikes, no drops, no leaks. You respond based on calculation, not sensation. Based on outcome, not impulse. based on dominance, not emotion. This is the point where people cannot read you, cannot manipulate you, cannot predict you, cannot influence you, because your reactions no longer come from emotion. They come from design. Rule 5. Eliminate emotional noise to access the cold state. Most men never achieve true self-control because their mind is too loud. Internal noise destroys discipline. Internal noise distorts perception. Internal noise triggers impulsive reactions. Internal noise makes you readable, unstable, predictable. Rule 5 is about silencing the internal noise so your mind becomes a cold operating system, free of emotional interference, free of fear-based assumptions, free of chaotic mental chatter. This is the rule that separates emotionally reactive men from strategically dominant ones. Let's break it down. The mind generates emotional instability through expectations, expecting validation, expecting comfort, expecting certainty, expecting results quickly, expecting people to behave fairly. Every expectation is an emotional hook. When the world doesn't match your expectations, you destabilize. To eliminate this noise, you must internalize a brutal truth. Expectations are fantasies disguised as logic. A ruthless mind replaces expectations with neutrality. No anticipation, no entitlement, no emotional pre-assumptions, no imagined outcomes, just observation, adaptation, action. Silence the expectation loop and you silence half your emotional instability. Most emotions are not reactions to reality. They're reactions to the story you tell yourself about reality. She didn't text back because she's losing interest. He spoke like that because he disrespects me. They didn't include me because I'm not valued. This isn't working because I always fail. None of this is objective. It's narrative, emotional fiction disguised as truth. To eliminate this noise, you must apply neutral interpretation. Instead of, she ignored me, you shift to, she responded according to her internal state, irrelevant to mine. Instead of, this is hard, you shift to, this is the correct level of pressure. Instead of, I'm failing, you shift to, I'm gathering data. The narrative machine loses power when you stop rewarding it with belief. The weak constantly project imagined futures. What if I fail? What if they judge me? What if this goes wrong? What if I embarrass myself? The emotional forecast creates fear before anything happens. To kill this noise, follow the principle. No response to the hypothetical. If the scenario hasn't happened in objective reality, it is irrelevant. If it exists only in imagination, it receives no emotional reaction. If it is not present in your physical environment, it gets zero attention. This rule alone can eliminate 80% of anxiety. This is the most corrosive form of emotional noise. It's the constant internal voice that evaluates everything. You're not doing enough. You're not strong enough. You're messing up. You should be further. You're not good enough. Internal commentary is insecurity masquerading as self-awareness. To silence it, you must apply non-engagement. When the internal commentary appears, you don't argue with it, analyze it, question it, or replace it. You treat it the same way you treat a random noise outside your window. You notice it and remain unmoved. When the commentary is deprived of emotional reaction, it collapses. Your mind becomes quiet. Your identity is shaped by emotional memory, and those memories echo into the present. Humiliation, abandonment, rejection, betrayal, failure, fear, shame. These past emotions resurface as present reactions. To eliminate this form of emotional noise, you must adopt this philosophy. The past is not a reference point. It's a corpse. You do not negotiate with dead emotions. You do not revive dead stories. You do not let the ghost of who you were dictate who you are becoming. Cut the emotional echo and you cut the chain of your former self. Comfort is emotional noise disguised as desire. Comfort tells you, relax, take it easy. You've done enough. You deserve rest. Don't push too hard. Comfort destroys transformation because it convinces you that resistance is optional. To eliminate this noise, you follow the principle. Comfort is the enemy until power is achieved. Comfort is earned, not assumed. Comfort comes after transformation, not before. When you silence the craving for comfort, you silence the single loudest voice that keeps men weak. When all emotional noise is eliminated, your mind reaches a different dimension of operation, the cold state. Here's what characterizes it. You feel very little, but perceive everything. You act without hesitation or internal drama. Your decisions become precise and efficient. Your presence becomes heavy, intimidating, controlled. You experience no internal resistance. People cannot emotionally influence you. You move through the world like a strategist, not a reactor. This is the psychological equivalent of a weapon with no unnecessary movement. Cold, clean, sharp, focused, unbreakable. The cold state is the neural environment where total self-control becomes instinct, not effort.